Welcome to the Be Real podcast with your hosts, Bobby Maximus and Joe Cebula. And today we are here to teach you the secrets of building muscle and also kind of the secrets of retaining muscle, because honestly, they're going to be the same thing if you're over the age of 40. So today we're going to keep this fast. You know how this podcast works. We're going to be quick, but we're going to give you real, actionable advice, real information that you can put into practice. So without wasting time, Joe, the first thing you've got to do. Now, listen, I know every time you go on social media, someone's trying to sell you a supplement. Someone's trying to get you on TRT, and TRT does really work, by the way. Someone's trying to give you some magical pill that you can take to get you better. But honestly, guys, and women too, if you want to build muscle, if you want to retain muscle, you have to lift some weights. There's no other way around it.
Well, and I'll even go just a little bit more esoteric, I guess, and say it doesn't even matter like lifting weights. You have to use the muscle that you have.
Yes.
If you're not doing anything, your body has no reason to maintain it, no reason to have it. And it's, what do they say? It's metabolically expensive. Like, costs your body a lot to maintain muscle. It's an energy sponge, right? So you've got to use what you've got. And if you're stretching what you've got, you're going to build more. And that doesn't matter what age you're at. Like, if you use what you've got, you will build more. It's just to the degree at which that happens. Obviously, when you're younger, it's a lot easier. When you're older, it's just a longer, slower process.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because I default, I guess, to lifting weights, right? But theoretically, you don't need to bench press, you don't need to deadlift, you don't need to lunge, you don't need to squat, even though I love those exercises.
Mm-hmm.
You could get everything you need from body weight work.
Yeah.
Like, there'd be nothing wrong.
If you're a farmer, you know what I mean? Like, you never see like a weak, decrepit farmer out there trying to plow the field. It's like they're big, thick dudes because they're constantly working. There's no break from being a farmer. The day you take a day off, your farm dies.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody today, Joe, about how there's a correlation between grip strength and life expectancy.
Yeah.
And generally, people who have a stronger grip, they live longer. Well, why would you have a stronger grip? Even if you're not training or working out, you're probably carrying something. You're probably doing a little bit of manual labor. You're probably playing a sport that involves grip versus sitting on a couch all day. So
now that you say that, though, you know there's going to be folks out there who get the grip things and are just like, I'm just going to work on my grip strength and then do nothing else, and then just expect to live to be 100.
That would be better than nothing in terms of forearm strength, right? And that might be a gateway to something else. But here's the point I was trying to make. Never mind dumbbells, never mind barbells. Mm-hmm. You can get what you need from body weight routines. Yeah. I do a lot of body weight stuff. Bulgarian split squats, air squats, lunges with only body weight, push-ups, pull-ups, dips. That'd be fine. You could use bands. You could use kettlebells. You could use Bulgarian bags. You could do something in the forest. You could watch Rocky IV and then get an axe and go and chop some trees down for all I care. But you've got to build muscle somehow. Now, there is all that said. There is some correlation between heavier weights, higher testosterone, more muscle. That's an absolute fact. Nothing's going to build muscle and nothing's going to turn on the testosterone taps like picking up a heavy weight. It's why you and I will always include some type of heavy lift or heavy resistance training at least once a week. The first thing you got to do for retaining it, you got to move it or you're going to lose it. Like if you're bedridden, you're going to atrophy all your muscles, right? And to build muscle, you got to move it. Now, there is also some science that says you can't build muscle in your 40s. Well, maybe that's true for the person that's been working out since they were 15 years old and was already at their peak musculature, Joe. Like, I'm looking at my 15-year-old. He looks at a dumbbell and he puts on muscle.
Right? Yeah.
That's not me. I'm not going to all of a sudden out of nowhere just stack on 25 pounds of muscle. That's not going to happen. But I have met a lot of people who haven't trained to their potential, who haven't worked out in their 20s or 30s, who all of a sudden find weight training in their 40s and they're able to put on muscle. And that tends to hold true. I want to say you can hold that till your mid 50s, Joe, before you really start to see a decline. So
I would say the process for building or maintaining muscle doesn't change based on your age, but the margins of error are definitely a lot tighter as you get older. Like your wiggle room disappears when you get in your 40s, but it can be done.
Let's go over the factors. You have less testosterone. Like a 20-year-old's going to have more testosterone than a 45-year-old. That's just a fact. And testosterone works. Like we've talked about it. Neither of us have ever used TRT, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you it doesn't work. There's a reason people use it. In fact, there's studies where people, what was the study? You referenced it for me. If you're just on steroids, you'll build more muscle sitting around than if you weren't. Like the stuff works.
Yeah.
So let's be clear about that. But number two, generally later in life, you're saddled with more stress. Like you're getting less sleep, you're working harder, you got real financial problems. Like what I wouldn't give to go back to when I was 21 years old. But like thought I was stressed.
I wouldn't even think it could go the other way too, because you're established, you're more financially viable. Like you're living a good life, you're comfortable, you're married, you've got some kids, you got a job maybe you like. Like where's your drive? What is there to hunger after at this point? You know, it's like you're pretty sated in your day-to-day life. There's no reason for you to go out. And that's why when some dude ends up in his 40s and divorced, all of a sudden it's like game on. And the dude makes a massive physical transformation because he's back in the dating pool. That's pressure. And so it's really one of the other. Like either you can't deal with what you've got or you're dealing really well with what you got and you have to find some reason, some motivation, some drive.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Joe, because it's not like you just woke up with a dad bod one day.
Yeah.
Right? Like something happened that you just gave up. Like the universe wasn't conspiring against you and decided that you were going to look like Charles Atlas on a Monday and then Tuesday, again, waking up dad bodded. You know what I mean? In kids, Charles Atlas is one of the most famous.
What is it? The scene from Spider-Man in reverse. He puts the glasses on and looks down. He's got a big beer belly.
That ain't happening. Right? Usually you got married, you have a job, you're not making money off your physique, and you're just done. Like you're just finished because it's easier to not work out. So the number one thing is you gotta lift some weights. And I'd say for guys over 40, Joe, if you're not a professional athlete, if you're not making your money off your body, if you're not like me trying to be the fittest 45-year-old on the planet, I turned 46 in a couple of days, so I'll claim that title, I guess. But if you're not, and I say that kind of in jest, but I'm kind of serious too, Joe. Like I could be on the cover of Men's Health next month. I get paid to do photo shoots. I got to look good. If you're not aiming to be at that kind of level, if you did resistance training 3 days a week, even 4 days a week, you'd see a massive change in your physique and you'd put on a bunch of muscle. That's just reality. Yeah. Right? So that's number one. Number two, and you see me drinking it here. Actually, this is it's a prop, right? I brought it just for this podcast. Guys, you have to eat more protein. Protein helps build muscle. You can't be on a protein deficient diet. Yeah. And you got to pay attention. There's a lot of people that think they eat enough protein because they had a couple of eggs for breakfast. 2 eggs is not going to fulfill your daily protein requirements. I talked to a guy today, Joe. He has a hard time putting on muscle. And then as we start talking, his wife's got him on a pescatarian diet. And I don't have a problem with a pescatarian diet. Like if you're eating enough eggs, if you're eating enough fish, if you're eating enough chicken, I'm fine with that. But she's more vegan than she is pescatarian. So he's having entire vegan meals and he's completely deficient in protein. That's why you're not putting on muscle in your 40s.
Yeah.
You gotta
Again, the margin of error is just slim. You got to cover all the things that you can cover. Like you can't let the variables that you can control be the reason that you're not having success. And you've got to be firing on all cylinders. So lifting something heavy at least once a week, doing resistance style training a couple times a week, and getting enough protein are all things that you can control. Yeah. And likewise, rest and recovery, which I think is another really important part of this.
Yeah, Joe, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you have to eat a steak a day. Like I do. I love steak, but I don't think that's necessarily the answer, nor am I necessarily like I like the carnivore diet, but I'm not necessarily a huge proponent of it. My thing is you just have to get a quality protein source every meal. And I'm okay with eggs. I'm okay with whey. I'm okay with chicken. I'm okay with fish. I'm okay with red meat. But nuts are not a good source of protein. The bang for your buck isn't there when you look at the calories. Cheese is not a good source of protein.
Both of those are fats, if you ask me. They're a source of fat. That's what you're going for there.
So if you're on a vegan diet or you're more vegetarian than anything, it is going to be hard to get enough protein. So you got to try to get it in. Well, the third thing, and I know you don't want to hear it because it's the simplest thing in the world, and you actually can talk about this because what was it, 2 years ago, you got down to 198?
Yeah.
Like it's the best you've ever looked in your entire life and you were photo shoot ready. Yep. We were talking about calories. We were talking about working out. We were talking about splits. But what was the one thing you were doing differently? What's the one thing you were getting every single night?
Sleep. I was getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep and no excuses.
It's the fountain of youth. There's a guy I know named Dan John who started sleeping 10 hours a night in a completely blacked out environment without changing his carbs, without changing his macros, without changing his calories, without changing his workout habits. He lost 10 pounds in a month just from that. Now, that also works in reverse. The more you sleep, and you can look up all the studies on this. We have tried to solve this problem for years. The more sleep you get, the more testosterone you produce. That's just a fact. Testosterone equals muscle. So you want to get more testosterone. Just get more sleep. The optimal is 8 to 9 hours in a blacked out environment. But if you can't get that for whatever reason, 7's better than 6.
Yeah.
6 is better than 5. Doing 5, 5, 8 is better than doing 5, 5, 5. Like the more you can sleep and the better you can sleep in a completely blacked out environment, it makes this process so much easier.
Yeah.
And that's on a chemical level. But you brought up a point last week. It's not only the chemicals that you're getting, it's the fact when you're more well rested, you might go 15% harder in your workout.
Exactly.
You might work out more and you might make better food choices in the day. So there's a one-off.
Do you want to operate at 90% capacity or do you want to operate closer to 100? Like you've got to have sleep to get up there for sure. And you might not, honestly, like I think you said this in a seminar ages ago, and it kind of stuck with me that if you break sleep up, like every dose of sleep, let's say it's every 2 hours, it's like another dose of HGH going into your system. And so if you're only getting 6 hours of sleep, getting 8 hours of sleep is similar to getting a dose of HGH.
Yep.
Like it's potent stuff and you've got to make that your reality. And it's not about like, I've got kids, I've got a job, I've got things to do. It's really just about the discipline of figuring out how you're going to get that in. It might be skipping Monday Night Football. It might be going to bed an hour earlier, shutting the phone off, like whatever it has to be. If you make that a priority, it is potent stuff.
You know, Joe, I'm gonna end the podcast because we've went over our 3 rules, right? We've done the working out. You got to work out. You got to do nutrition. We're hitting the 15-minute mark. We're going to hit the 15-minute mark. We'll go over. But I just want to talk about being tired too. And I'm not going to relate it to working out because some people don't get that, right? When I was in Vegas for the World Masters Jiu-Jitsu Championship, I told myself I would do my emails at the end of the day. It's 8:30 at night. I get back to the room. I just had a big meal. We went to Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Ramsay restaurant in Vegas. And I sat down on the bed to do some emails. And Joe, I swear, man, I was spinning. I was so tired. How many emails do you think I got done realistically when I was that tired?
I'm not going to imagine too many.
Well, 0. I just quit because I know better, right? But my point is, when you're exhausted, you can't think. When you're exhausted, your productivity's down. When you're exhausted, normally cleaning the house takes you 30 minutes. It takes you an hour. It saps you. So now let's transfer that. And everyone who's watching this has been there. Even if you don't work out, you know what I'm talking about. Having a conversation is painful. Now imagine you're going into your workout like that. You're not getting quality work done. So imagine the boost in productivity if you're leaping out of bed and then going into the gym. Like you might get 5 more reps a set. You might get 5 more reps every 30 seconds. You might get, it doesn't matter, whatever your measure of intensity is, you're going to go harder. You're going to build more muscle. So work out, get more protein, more sleep. That's the secret you've been looking for. It's not TRT. It's not PEDs. It's not a special supplement somebody's trying to sell you. It's literally those 3 things. Now get to it.